Hello, everybody. My name's Rick McCutcheon, and welcome to PartnerTalks. And today we have a very special guest, Richard Haus from WennSoft. Richard, let the people know who you are and what you do.
Thanks, Rick. I am CEO of WennSoft, and WennSoft is a software business in the Microsoft space that works with companies that do field service and construction, and we offer software tools for that vertical.
Okay, excellent. Richard, you've been in this space for a while, and so is WennSoft. Very interesting ISV. Let's talk a little bit about you, because you're in the driver's seat over there now. What's your background with business applications? How did you get started, and how did you get to where you are today?
Good question. So the business application start was actually around 2000, and I was working at a business that needed software for their core operations, and we found a partner that recommended a few different options, and interestingly, all of those are part of Microsoft now, and we picked Great Plains at the time, and so I implemented Great Plains around 2000, and we had some other ISV products connected to it, and so that was my first experience, and since then there's been a journey of other products along the way. I've worked with F&O, and we're now focused on Business Central.
Okay, excellent. And if you've been in this dynamic space for a while, you probably know a lot of people from Fargo, because that's where GP started. And I know if I go into my own LinkedIn, there's hundreds of them connected to me. So let's talk a little bit about WennSoft, because they're a great example of an ISV that took a product, built around that product, and became very successful.
Yeah, absolutely. So WennSoft's story is pretty interesting in terms of they actually started as Wenninger Mechanical, not as a software ISV. And if you imagine what kind of software was running back in 1911 when they started the business, it was very pre-software. And so, 70 some years later, there's a guy named Jim Wenninger who was in that business and saw the light of what options there were for software solutions, and started working on or looking at what was available. And Great Plains was the best fit from the financial and general needs perspective, but it didn't have much to offer for a field service and construction accounting need to fill those needs. And so luckily Great Plains was extensible enough that they started in-house. They were their own frontier partner. They're going to use it for their own needs first, and that's how it all got started. Was built for their own needs.
And I find, some of the best ISVs in our space, that's where they came from, right? One day I'm selling lighting or selling compressors or doing something, and all of a sudden I need a better way of doing this. They build it, they find out about dynamics, attach to it, and off they go. So WennSoft's a great example. Let's talk a little bit about the timeline for this organization, because you've been around for quite a while.
Yeah, the WennSoft was formally separated out as a software business in 1995. And obviously they've been working on solutions in-house up until then. Their partner that was their relationship to Microsoft identified that what they had built had broad use. They weren't the only customer that could use that. And Microsoft at that time was, it was a few years before that acquisition, but this partner channel was coming to life of other companies selling what we now are calling ISV products. And so, yeah, they were encouraged and supported by their partner to get the word out, and the software started selling. So that was so in the mid 90s is when it was incorporated as its own separate software company.
Okay, so it's been around for, let's say, 30 odd years. Which is, you might be the oldest ISV in space, actually, which is good news in a lot of ways. So you really dominated the GP, Great Plains world for years, and now you're migrating to Business Central, to F&O. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it's migration. Like, why are we migrating? So Microsoft, GP's had a long life, and it's not a web-based product. There's a lot of modern capabilities that other products have. And so consolidating their efforts into the Business Central F&O space, our customers are facing a end of support date of the end of 2029. And, in order for us to survive, we need to offer solutions in that area. So we've been working on those things for a while, and that's driving a lot of change, and there's just a ton of opportunity for improved practices as well with the new technologies.
And I think, moving yourself to what we'll call the Microsoft Cloud is really going to open opportunities. Being in GP, being on premise, you were limited to that space. But I think, if we look at Business Central, Microsoft announced 50,000 customers on Business Central last fall in Poland at Directions EMEA. And we've got another Directions coming up in just a couple of weeks, and I'm sure that number is going to keep going up. And then let alone we get into that, finance and operations, F&O space. I think that opens you up to a much larger enterprise. So why don't we talk a little bit, Richard, about your current customer base and who gets the most out of your product?
Yeah. So Wenninger was a mechanical contracting business. That is a very easy fit because we built it for exactly that. But it turns out that think of a commercial building, whether it's a hotel or a school or a hospital, and if that building didn't have electricity or plumbing or heat, it wouldn't be very habitable. And so those are the systems that our customers are installing when buildings are built, replacing as needed and servicing them over time. So construction and service. A lot of it has to do with commercial buildings, but also we've got customers in the energy space, whether it's fueling stations for vehicles or generators, things like that. So really, and facilities maintenance, so there's a lot of customer types that fit fire and security, for example. So yeah, those are our typical customers that need to build and track partial project completion and billing processes along the way, and then have field service technicians out there servicing equipment and having data in real time, consistent business practices, things like that as they grow are important things for tools to help them manage.
WennSoft's got a long history of working with partners. And, I think you're known as a very partner-friendly type organization. So let's talk a little bit about the relationships you have with partners. What types of partners work best with you, and what do you have in store for the future working with partners?
Yeah, a good question. So I think ultimately, there's most of our customers are through partners, and those partners brought us those customers. They support those customers. They have services beyond implementing the software that they offer. It could be tax advisory, financial services. So they know the customer more intimately than WennSoft is able to. They've got the trust of the customer, so as an advisor, what should I do next? The customer's going to ask the partner. So the partners are critical in our go-to-market and supporting of our customers. I sort of think of them as the warm blanket of the experience of the customer's got this software, and they've got needs in the business. It's really not all about software, and the partner that's who they depend on. So and we do too.
Do you want to talk a little bit about how you co-sell and how do you go to market with these partners?
Yeah, so we've got relationships where the partners bring us opportunities, and we work together on them to identify the needs. And right now, a lot of those look like migrations. So our legacy product built on GP, everyone needs to find a solution. Many of those are Business Central. So, what features do they absolutely need in this new solution right away? And as our new cloud solution is available, it's not an exact mirror of everything that was built over the last 30 years. So I think that assessment process is something we do together. I think initially, as our new cloud product comes to life, WennSoft is going to be responsible for more of the assessment on the field service and construction job cost side. And the Business Central kind of core needs are probably more natural for most partners to just jump in there, and they've got that experience. They've migrated customers from GP to BC already. So together, we lean on each other's expertise, and over time, you do a few of them and you start as the partner to have more of that expertise yourself. So.
And, I think that's good because, once a partner's done a couple of projects with you, I've worked in this world with contractors and things before putting in CRM implementations. It's quite complex. Like there's, in one instance, they're the subcontractor, the other one, they're the master contractor. And then there's a whole different world of billing and things of that nature. How long does it take for a partner to really get to understand your business? And what does WennSoft do to support them in that journey?
Yeah, good question. So I think there's probably a range of answers of which, how do we work with different types of partners? So if you don't already have the experience in field service and construction accounting, we can certainly supplement you and help, with explaining what the offering is to the customer. Many of our partners have that experience because of existing WennSoft customers we already share. So the problems we're trying to solve with the new cloud software versus what they have today are usually the same problems with maybe some better answers as to how we get them solved. So I think, in that case, the partner probably has a lot of good instincts. It's just how does that apply in the new software and what are the capabilities today in the new?
And, so let's talk a little bit about, I guess, modern history with WennSoft. 2025 for contractors and your business, how was it? And then let's kind of look forward and what are our expectations for 2026?
Yeah. So 2025 has been a year of preparing for cloud migrations and having the right base feature set that customers can move to. And so there's a lot of building of cloud solutions in 25. And there was also a lot of this new AI thing that people are talking about, which is no longer new. So in 2025, there was quite a transition of our focus internally on using AI for our own purposes. So I would say, cloud and AI were probably the two biggest themes of 2025 for us. Also assessing where customers are with their need to move forward to the cloud, because everyone's in a different stage of, I want to do it in the next 12 months, or I'm just trying to make a decision and it's going to take me a couple of years to get there. And so aligning to those who are moving quickest on working closely together on planning together, make sure we have the right features for their migration.
When we start to talk about what's going on in the world of AI, it must be really interesting from an ISV perspective on how you're going to build things out. What are you going to do, right? But, with WennSoft, you're coming out of a GP, on-premise, older product. You're moving them to a new product. There's going to be AI features. What do you get excited about leading WennSoft forward in this area?
Oh, well, there's a lot. One point of view, and I'll just say this out loud, is maybe as WennSoft as a long-standing kind of legacy software business, maybe some customers or partners don't think we have AI coming forward in our solution. They don't know what to expect. We were acquired in 2023 by Constellation Software, so we and 900 other businesses are under that umbrella. They're all vertical market software businesses. Can you imagine that we are very focused on AI within those organizations? And so the amount of encouragement and coordinated efforts in that area is a lot. And so we've got some good resources to get us moving. And I'm kind of going back into 2025. And so we took those opportunities and started applying our skills. And there's a lot of good, smart people in WennSoft. And so there's some definite momentum that started, showing what we could do. And so using AI to build tools that we would internally leverage first, which is really the spirit of Frontier, is you're going to use, how can you be recommending to others how to do it if you haven't done it yourself, or applied it for your own needs. So we definitely started doing that in 2025. And so some of our AI learning and applied learning was to take data we had in-house, put it in a place that it could be leveraged by AI. And so we built tools that took, for example, all of our support case history of customers calling needed help, all the documentation for the products, put that into an Azure location where Azure AI Foundry can work on that. And so it's sort of like Copilot Studio on steroids. So we built our own tools that we now have an agent that when incoming support cases arrive, an email comes in, it's automatically triaged by the AI based on all the past cases and answers that have been given and all the documentation that's there. And so often, the support person opens the ticket and they're ready to go. And we've heard, hours of time saved and, not needing escalations that take time and take other resources to get things done. So a big accelerator. But also I'd say probably even the bigger value is the base for us to then deliver solutions to our customers.
Rich, thank you for coming on Partner Talks, and I'm very excited about what's going to happen with the WennSoft this year, and I'm sure we'll be coming back at some point to get an update on your growth into the cloud.